Hi, it's Mark Albert. Glad you're with me. Today, we're going to look at what I see as the three top TFSA mistakes that people make. So we go into homes all the time, help them as a financial consultant in their home, do financial strategies, and when we look at their statements and what they've been doing, I see three consistently mistakes that people make. And I'm going to share them with you quickly right here, right now. So the first one is to over-contribute. They tend to over-contribute. And the problem with that is when you over-contribute to your TFSA, it triggers a penalty. It triggers a 1% penalty, comes from the CRA. It's 1% per month of the amount that you're over the limit, which is a big problem. So, and that happens generally in two ways. Well, it does happen in two ways is why I see it. Simply, they just put too much money in. They just not, people may not be clear on what their limit is, and they just deposit too much money, and then part of that goes over the limit. Secondly, they look at the TFSA and use it almost like a savings account. Money in, money out, money in, money out, and that creates a problem. So every deposit, so if I withdraw $10,000, okay, the available room that I have in the limit, that $10,000, once I get to January 1, there's a reset that happens on the TFSA. So then that 10,000 is then available to me. But if I take out 10,000 today and then I deposit 5,000 next week and another 8,000 the week after, another 8,000 the week after, those are all fresh deposits that go against my contribution room. So if we go in and out with the account, just be aware of your limits for that. So going over the contribution room is a big deal. A second one that I see out there quite often is that people who are married or common law, there's an advantage that they have with the TFSA that they don't have with the RSP when it comes to after you pass away. So if I'm married or if I'm common law, you should set them up as a successor holder. So oftentimes the mistake they make is they set up their spouse as the beneficiary instead of the successor holder. So if you set up your spouse or as the successor holder, what happens is they will get the money in the form of a TFSA. So whatever TFSA they had, it gets added to it, and the tax-free status that the spouse who passed away had comes over and becomes added to the tax-free status that the living spouse has. So they see their total tax-free. They basically inherit the tax-free status of the spouse that passed away. So that you'd have to set up as a successor holder to make that happen. If they don't, if they set up as a beneficiary, what happens is the spouse who's living still gets the money tax-free. There may be a little extra paperwork and to get that available. The living spouse is then liable, even though they get it tax-free, they're liable for any tax consequences from the day of death until the money gets deposited in their account. So if the fund continues to grow, they're responsible for the tax for any growth in that regard. And so, and what happens if you set up as a beneficiary, right? Then the money comes over, but it doesn't come over as a TFSA, and the tax status of the spouse who passed away is then gone and no longer available in any way. So the third thing that I see is that people aren't using their TFSA for retirement purposes, for retirement savings, for a long-term perspective. So in our world, the TFSA is basically the finest thing. You don't get the tax deduction as you do with the RSP, but it grows tax-free, and when you take it out, it's tax-free. And right now, the federal government, provincial government in Ontario in particular, where I'm from, their debt obligation is so massive. The interest they pay simply on the debt annually is extraordinary. And so we're not going to have the ability to control the government taxation in the future. We're not going to have the ability to control inflation that we may be under in the future. But in the future, if you have several $100,000 saved up in a tax-free savings account, you have control over pulling money out that will not be taxed. If you get several $100,000 in your RSP and you use that money, there's tax consequences. But with the TFSA, there is not. So I would say that one of the biggest mistakes that people make with the TFSA, a third one, is that they use their money, they think of it like a savings account. They use it for short-term savings projects instead of long-term wealth building. And that's basically very critical for your wealth and estate planning, is to tax shelter your money and to have a strategy so that when you pass away, your loved one gets it in the best and most efficient way. Thank you. So talk to you later. Bye.